Let me show you just how easy it is to make this incredible roasted beef tenderloin dinner sponsored by Reynolds Wrap. Hello everyone and welcome back to my kitchen. The holiday season is upon us and that means lots of dinners and gatherings with your family and friends, and I cannot think of a better or more impressive dinner than this roasted beef tenderloin made using Reynolds Wrap heavy duty foil paired with some roasted potatoes and a creamy pepper sauce. You are going to be in food heaven with this incredible dish. Reynolds Wrap makes prepping, cooking, and cleanup so much easier, so I get to spend more time with my family and friends this holiday season. We'll get started with the whole beef tenderloin. I know that this cut of meat can look very intimidating. It's on the larger side, but it's actually super easy to work with. We're going to trim it, truss it, and then season it with a blend of olive oil, garlic, fresh herbs, a little Dijon mustard before placing it into the oven along with some seasoned potatoes, and we're going to serve everything with a creamy pepper sauce. It pairs so well with this juicy, aromatic, and tender beef. For the full list of ingredients and the printable instructions, head on down into that video description box and over to my website. Meanwhile, let me show you how to make this impressive and delicious dinner. First things first, let's preheat our oven to 475 degrees Fahrenheit, and then we'll need either a roasting pan with a rack, or you can use a baking sheet with a wire rack like I'm using today. And this is important because you want the tenderloin to be elevated. You want that hot oven air to circulate around the meat, cooking it evenly. And we're going to line the inside of the pan with Reynolds Wrap heavy duty foil. This is a really strong and durable foil that's perfect for cooking heavier foods since you don't have to worry about it ripping or tearing, and you get super easy cleanup at the end too. Let's tear off a couple sheets and make sure that the bottom is completely covered. And our pan is ready to go. Let's quickly put together the spread that we're going to use for seasoning our tenderloin. We'll need about a third cup of olive oil or avocado oil. Pour in 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. Add 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard. About 1.5 tablespoons of chopped fresh rosemary, and I love using fresh herbs because they add a lot of great flavor and aroma. 1.5 tablespoons of fresh thyme. We'll need about 1.5 tablespoons to 2 tablespoons of coarse sea salt. Ground black pepper, lots and lots of pepper. I need about 6 to 7 garlic cloves, and I love to use the zester for my garlic because it gets the garlic super fine and it's less likely to burn this way. And then whisk everything together. Now let's get started with the beef tenderloin, and there are a couple different ways you could prepare this cut of beef for roasting. The first method, and the one we'll be using today, is we'll roast it whole by tucking that tail end underneath and trussing the beef to ensure even cooking. A second method is you can cut off the shorter tail end, and this is especially great if you have like a smaller, thinner piece at the end, and you can roast that separately, and this will give you more control over the doneness of the meat. And the third method is you can trim off either end, creating just a center piece. It's also known as a chateaubriand, or the creme de la creme of the beef tenderloin, and then you can use the ends for different recipes. Pat the tenderloin dry with a couple paper towels, and then use a sharp knife to trim off any large chunks of fat, like this nice little piece needs to go. And then also trim off any silver skin. Once you have the tenderloin trim, you'll want to bring that tail end around, kind of tuck it inside. We'll create a nice uniform piece of beef. And then you'll want to grab some kitchen twine. You're going to need quite a large piece, but we'll start out without cutting it. Slide it underneath. It's really important to truss this cut of beef so that you get even cooking. We're going to make a really nice knot here, tie it off. Loop the twine around your hand, and then go under and then over. We're gonna pull this around. You wanna do this every about 1/2 inch to 1 inch to ensure that the beef is going to roast evenly. And then pull it tightly across the top. Wrap the twine around to the other side, and then pull it through twice. and place the tenderloin onto the wire rack. Now let's take that spread that we made earlier. We're going to rub this all over the tenderloin. I'll make sure it gets on both sides. I'm going to do this top part first, then roll it over. I have my oven rack positioned in the lower third of my oven. I'm going to roast the tenderloin at 475 degrees Fahrenheit until it reaches an internal temperature about 125, 130 degrees Fahrenheit, and the timing can all depend on the size of your tenderloin. So a smaller one might take 25 to 30 minutes, a larger one like this might take 40 to 45 minutes. You want to use a digital thermometer inserted at the thickest part of the tenderloin to get the most accurate reading. Now if your tenderloin starts to get a little too dark during the roasting process, just tint it with a sheet of Reynolds Wrap heavy duty foil. This will prevent it from getting darker. While this is roasting, we're also going to throw in a pan of some potatoes. The roasted potatoes go so well with this incredible tenderloin. For the roasted potatoes, I'm first going to line a baking sheet with Reynolds Wrap heavy duty foil. Peel and cube about 3 pounds of golden potatoes, and then we'll spread them onto our baking sheet. Drizzle the potatoes generously with olive oil or avocado oil. And we'll season with lots of ground black pepper, 2 teaspoons of sea salt, 1 teaspoon of dried thyme, 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika, 1 teaspoon of dried garlic, and a teaspoon of dried onion. Toss this all together. Cover the potatoes tightly with Reynolds Wrap heavy duty foil. Roast the potatoes at 475 degrees Fahrenheit, covered for about 20 minutes, and then you can remove the foil from the top and continue roasting them until they're nice and golden brown all over, giving them a toss every once in a while that tenderloin also roasts. Next, let's get started on that pepper sauce. We'll need 2 tablespoons of mixed peppercorns. I like to use a pestle and mortar to kind of crush them nicely. You want to crush those peppercorns so they release all their fragrance and aroma. For the sauce, we'll start with 2 tablespoons of butter. Drop that into a sauté pan. Add in 1 tablespoon of all-purpose flour. We'll whisk this and cook for a couple of minutes. Slowly whisk in 1½ cups of beef broth. Pour in a 1/4 cup of cognac. Add in a sprig of thyme and fresh rosemary and those crushed peppercorns. Bring the sauce up to a simmer over medium heat and let this simmer away for about 15 to 20 minutes until it's nicely reduced. Once that broth has reduced and thickened, pour in 1/2 cup of cream and cook this for a few more minutes before removing it from heat. Once roasted, transfer the tenderloin onto a carving board and let it rest for about ½ an hour before serving it and slicing it. You want to snip off the kitchen twine that we use to truss the meat. So just snip away through the center pieces where you see it and unravel. Grab a sharp knife, and I usually cut off this little end piece and save it for myself for later when I'm serving it for company. Check out this incredible tenderloin on the inside. You could serve the tenderloin on the same pan along with the roasted potatoes. Scoop those up and plate them. Add a few slices of beef tenderloin for each serving. And then pour some of that creamy pepper sauce over the top. The roasted beef tenderloin and the potatoes smell so good when they're in the oven, simply mouth-watering. Let's dig in to enjoy. I love to have lots of this creamy pepper sauce. It adds so much incredible flavor to the recipe. And dip some of that steak right in. This is so incredibly juicy and tender too. The steak is phenomenal, so incredibly soft, tender, juicy, flavorful. I love the seasoning that we added on the outside, the garlic with the fresh herbs and Dijon mustard. It pairs so well with the tenderloin. In fact, if you have the time, you could season the tenderloin 24 hours ahead of time and then roast it when you're ready to allow some of those flavors to really sink in. Let's grab some of these roasted potatoes along with the steak. Oh, these always turned out so good, and they're always a huge hit with my guests. This beef tenderloin dinner is hands down my favorite dinner to serve during the holiday season. It's so impressive and it's easy to put together and always a huge hit with everybody. A huge thank you to Reynolds Wrap for sponsoring this video recipe. Don't forget to head on down into the video description box for the recipe link and the product info and all the details up on my website. I hope you enjoyed this incredible recipe during your holidays, and I'll see you next time with a new recipe.